Hey, how's it going? It's John from Bear With Me, and I am bringing you our first ever episode of Gear Guide. Now, this is going to be a show dedicated to telling you what sort of great and awesome gear you can use for any sort of audio or film recording. Now, to start off the show, I thought I would talk about the mic that I use, which is the Shure MV51. This is from their Motiv series line, and it is a USB condenser mic. It is a cardioid pattern, so it'll pick up what is in front of the mic, not necessarily what's behind it. So if you're doing any sort of podcast or vocal work, this is really a good mic to go with. Now, the nice thing about this one is it is pretty much only USB. It has a USB port as well as a dedicated headphone jack, so you can do non-delayed monitoring for whatever you're recording. Now, the thing that I like about this mic is it's got 5 different settings you can choose from based on what you're actually going to be recording. It's got the flat setting, which uses this icon right here. It's got a speech setting, as well as a singing setting, an acoustic setting if you're going to be recording any sort of guitars or other acoustic instruments, as well as a speaker setting, which is great for if you are going to be recording anything through an electric guitar or similar instrument, or if you need to record something from a speaker if you ever actually need to do that. Everything is controlled on a touch panel right on the front of the microphone itself. That is where you can choose which setting you're using, as well as you can adjust the gain, as well as your headphone volume from the direct headphone out source on the back of the microphone. Now, the microphone comes with its own little kickstand to start, basically, if you can see that there. And there is a little nub at the end of it, but I removed that because I mounted it on a microphone stand. Now, I am just recording the audio directly through my camera right now. I will be plugging this into my computer a little bit later and recording directly through Audition, so you can get an idea of how well that sounds. Now, the other thing that is great about this is if you are an iPhone or iPad user, you can plug this directly into one of those. It comes with a specialty cable that goes from micro USB to Lightning, and allows you to use your Shure Motiv app, and that will allow you to control your EQ of the device, as well as do any recording directly to something like that, so you don't have to go through a computer. It means that despite the weight, this is actually a pretty portable microphone as well. Alright, I'm going to hook this thing up and we're going to do some audio tests.
Alright, so right now I have the microphone set up through Adobe Audition, and I am going directly into my computer, not going through any sort of system like that. Now, I have tweaked the EQ on my microphone a little bit through the Shure Motiv app, and as you can hear, I am popping pretty hard on this. It is a very sensitive microphone and will pick up any sort of excessive wind noises, but that is luckily solved with something like this right here, your standard pop filter. So now that I have the standard pop filter in front of it, it of course is going to even me out completely. I love the sound that this thing has once I'm using it. Now, the gain on the microphone right now is only at about 30%, so I have to get pretty close up on it, but you will notice it doesn't pick up that much extra noise. You will hear a little bit of an echo, but that is just because my apartment is insanely echoey. Now, the thing is, this microphone is pretty expensive. Personally, I think that this is the microphone that we should be using for our podcast. However, its retail price puts it a little bit out of our budget right now. In Canada, this retails for about $249.99, or in the US, it is about $200. Now, don't get me wrong, it is easily the best $250 I ever spent. The build quality, sound quality, and capabilities of this mic make it 100% worth it. It's just, as a startup podcast, we have a very tight budget, so we ended up going with some $60 Neewer mics instead, though eventually we would like to work up to some really fancy Shure microphones, preferably like the really, really good XLR condenser quality ones, but these ones are great if you want to start off but aren't quite limited to a budget and want some good versatility. Now, speaking of versatility, I did mention that you can record acoustic instruments on this as well as amplified instruments, so I will be demoing that for you as well. But overall, I say this is a 5-star piece of equipment. You would be hard-pressed to find something better. it's a great alternative to the Yeti as well. And if you don't want to be, one of those typical people that say, oh, look at me, I use the Yeti. I mean, the Yeti is nice because you can get a binaural sound on it. This one is strictly mono, but it's a mono stereo. You hear it in both earphones, but you don't have designated left and right channels, which, it's not really the end of the world.